Hello, I'm Karen Giannoni. It's day 8 of the US-Israel war with Iran. Over the next 10 minutes or so, we'll bring our daily briefing with all you need to know and the key updates on the conflict. President Trump has threatened to expand US strikes against Iran to include new targets. He's dismissed an apology by the Iranian president to Gulf states for attacking them. Iran has struck Arab neighbours, including Kuwait, Bahrain and Dubai, where there's been a drone strike near the international airport. Inside Iran, residents have endured an 8th day of intense US and Israeli bombardment across the country. The Iranian Red Crescent says more than 1,300 people have been killed in Iran since the war began. Along with its attacks on Iran, Israel's intensified its military campaign in Lebanon, with the Israel Defense Forces saying there's been a broad-scale wave of strikes on the capital, Beirut. The HMS Prince of Wales, one of Britain's 2 aircraft carriers, has been placed on advanced readiness to sail. Defence sources have told the BBC the ship's crew have been told they must be ready to leave in 5 days. Well, we begin with the latest from the United States. President Trump vowing to hit Iran very hard, saying the US military is considering new targets in the country. The US president claims his military forces have knocked out 42 Iranian Navy ships in 3 days and says they're doing, quote, very well.
This had to be done. They were very close to a nuclear weapon. They would have had one if we didn't do our B-2 hit, Midnight Hammer. They would have had it 8 months ago. They would have had a nuclear weapon, and, you know, they're crazy, and they would have used it. So we did the world a favor.
Well, earlier, Iran's President Masoud Pezeshkian apologised for attacking neighbouring countries and said Tehran would not attack them unless attacked first.
I must apologise on my own behalf and behalf of Iran to the neighbouring countries that were attacked by Iran. The Interim Leadership Council agreed yesterday that no more attacks will be made on neighbouring countries and no missiles will be fired unless an attack on Iran originates from those countries.
President Trump reacted with a post on Truth Social saying Iran, which is being beat to hell, has apologised and surrendered to its Middle East neighbours and promised that it will not shoot at them anymore. This promise was only made because of the relentless US and Israeli attack. Well, let's speak to our North America correspondent, Simi Jolaosho, who's in Washington. And Simi, Trump threatening to expand the strikes. What's the mood like in the US, and does the president have support?
Well, the response here has been very mixed. There have been rallies in Los Angeles, in New York, in Boston, and here in Washington, just outside the White House. Some of them pro-Trump rallies, some of them calling for an end to the war. A new poll by PBS found that 56% of respondents are opposed to this military action against Iran. A poll by CBS found that 45% of respondents feel this military action is making America less safe. Now, remember, this is not a fulfillment of President Trump's campaign promise of no new foreign wars. And the public here have made it clear that they don't want the loss of more American lives. They don't want another endless conflict in the Middle East. And they don't fully understand what the imminent threat was from Iran. The Trump administration haven't made that messaging very clear. Now, Democrats are saying that this is a war of choice, not a war of necessity, and that the Trump administration is not focusing enough on domestic issues, especially the issue of affordability. And they want the end goal of this war to be made very clear. But Republicans are largely in support of President Trump. They say that, look, this is necessary for peace in America, peace across the world. But for them, there is a red line, and that would be for this war to be expanded in 2 ways. Number one, they are opposed to having American troops on the ground in Iran. And number 2, for this war to last longer than just a few weeks.
Simi, thank you very much. Well, Gulf states have continued to experience strikes throughout the day. Despite that message from the Iranian president, Qatar and the UAE have reported attacks by missiles and drones, while Saudi Arabia says a missile was launched towards a military base. In Dubai, there was a drone strike near the airport. Our correspondent Nick Beek is in Dubai for us. And Nick, lots of questions about that strike near the airport coming into us on TikTok. There's been another explosion tonight in Dubai.
Hi, Karen. Yeah, absolutely right. There was a loud bang that a lot of people heard, and then a fire. And this was in the marina area that a lot of Brits like to go to. It's where a lot of influencers film and upload their content. What we're hearing from the authorities is that this was an interception of some sort of Iranian strike that was incoming and that no one was injured, but clearly a concern. And also it shows that Iran continues to hit some of its neighbours in the Gulf, including Dubai. But it was what happened this morning that really got a lot of attention, because this video went viral showing a drone strike at the airport, the main international airport. And within the video you can see this drone hitting the ground and then this huge plume of smoke coming up, and it's really near the terminal building. You can see planes that are nearby on the tarmac. And what happened after that is that the authorities suspended flights at the airport, which is the busiest for passenger traffic in the world, before resuming operations very soon after. Now, the thing that I found really interesting was that the authorities didn't really acknowledge that there'd been this drone strike at the airport. They didn't give any details about their decisions to temporarily halt proceedings before bringing back all those flights. So that's something that's happened today. And also here in the United Arab Emirates, they've been talking about intercepting a lot of stuff coming in from Iran, specifically 15 missiles that were intercepted and 119 drones. So this goes to show that despite the mixed messaging coming out of Tehran, coming out of Iran, these countries in the Gulf, neighbours nearby, including the United Arab Emirates, continue to face these sort of attacks.
Nick, thank you. Let's get more on the global travel situation now. Since the war began, tourists and business travellers have been stuck in the Middle East, and although some airspace is reopening, missile and drone attacks in major cities from Riyadh to Dubai are leading to fresh closures. Travellers have been getting in touch with BBC Your Voice, including Ian. We've followed his 7-day journey from Doha across the Saudi desert, finally flying out of Riyadh last night.
Me and 3 others hired a car with a driver who took us from Doha across the desert to Saudi Arabia at night. We had mechanicals along the way. We arrived in Riyadh. We then found that there was been an airstrike and it closed this morning, the airspace there, so we missed flights from Riyadh and all of our connecting flights. We got out of Riyadh about 3 hours late to Jeddah, where we then changed from Jeddah. I'm going from Jeddah to Istanbul to Venezia, which is where I was trying to get back to.
Well, as we've mentioned, US and Israeli strikes have continued inside Iran. There's a state-imposed internet shutdown there with very little news coming out of the country. But my colleagues at BBC Persian have got some messages from people inside the capital, Tehran. We've voiced up their words. Take a listen.
I haven't stepped outside since I got to Tehran, and my 3-year-old and I are just trying to get through the bombing. But this love of war that some people have is something I just can't stand.
Mehrabad has basically been flattened. We just hope they stop targeting this area and don't bomb it anymore. In some of the Ekbatan blocks that face industrial aviation buildings, the blast wave shattered the windows.
Well, along with its attacks on Iran, Israel's intensified its military campaign in Lebanon, with the IDF saying there's been a broad-scale wave of strikes on the capital, Beirut. Lebanon's health ministry says the total death toll has now risen to 294. 41 of those were during an Israeli operation in the Baalbek district, an area in the east of the country controlled by Hezbollah. Radina had already fled one war in her native Sudan. Now heavily pregnant and with 3 children, she's found herself seeking safety once again.
They said the place isn't safe, you need to leave. We had to walk. Even on foot, you couldn't go. The roads were packed. We suffered. My children started to get tired. I couldn't carry them.
The eruption of the Iran conflict has brought with it consequences that extend far beyond the Middle East. The region plays a key role in global energy supplies and shipping routes, prompting concerns that everything from heating bills to supermarket shopping baskets could become more expensive, as our business correspondent Mark Ashdown explains.
The Strait of Hormuz is crucial to the world's oil and gas supply. Roughly 20% of global supplies pass through it every day. It's just 30 kilometres wide at its narrowest point, with Iran on the north and Oman to the south. And right now, 300 or so tankers are sat there since maritime traffic dried up last week, going nowhere for fear of passing through, because Iran has threatened to set fire to anything that dares to try and sail through there. Now that's caused havoc on the global stock markets, not least the price of oil. Brent crude, that's the benchmark. It spiked back in 2022 to about $116 a barrel when Russia invaded Ukraine. Since then, it's been bumbling around at sort of $60, $65 a barrel. It has gone up in the past week in response to the US-Israeli strikes on Iran, and it closed at about $90 a barrel on Friday. And there are warnings that if this conflict carries on for a prolonged period of time, that could push up to $150 a barrel, warned the Qatari energy minister on Friday. Pretty strong words, but it does show you just how reliant the world is on getting oil out of this region and getting these ships to deliver things around the world. Now, airlines have already felt the pain. The price of jet fuel has doubled over the past week. They do hedge against this sort of thing, but long term, that could see the price of seats on aircraft go up, or even some flights potentially being cancelled over the busy summer period. Motorists too have seen the prices of petrol and diesel creep up by a few pence at the pumps. That could continue, again, if this goes on for a long period of time.
Mark Ashdown. Well, after a week of war that's rocked the region, governments around the world and global markets, where do things stand diplomatically? Who's winning and how long could it continue? Well, those are some of the most frequently searched questions about the conflict. With me to address some of those, our World News correspondent Joe Inwood. Joe, one question for you first of all. Who is winning the war?
I mean, if only it were that simple. I mean, in pure military terms, in terms of who is destroying more of the other side's assets, of their killing more people, putting it bluntly, of course the Americans and the Israelis have vast military superiority. They've pretty much got air supremacy, complete control of the skies now, and as we've seen from these pictures over the last few days, they're able to strike at will, and they are obviously doing huge amounts of damage to the military hardware of Iran. They're bombing their facilities, they're bombing their command bunkers. But it's not nearly that simple, because for the Iranians, for them, firstly, they are still striking. They are hitting American bases, not nearly as much, but a bit. And that is a form of victory. But actually, for them, they've got a longer kind of strategic goal, and that is to survive this. They've got the world's most powerful military and the region's most powerful military giving them everything at this point, or giving them a large amount of their firepower. And if they can stick this out, if they can make the regime survive, well, that will be a form of victory as well. And they have a key tool in this, a key weapon in their arsenal, and that's causing disruption, economic disruption, political disruption around the region. We've seen, Mark was talking there about the economic consequences. All of those, yes, they're painful for Iran, but they're painful for America as well. And what they're hoping, the Iranians, is that they can make this uncomfortable enough, difficult enough, chaotic enough, that over the course of the weeks, even though they are being pounded militarily, they make it so difficult for the Americans that the Americans can't continue this. The Iranians can say, we survive this, and they think for them that will be a form of victory as well.
You mentioned over the course of the weeks, another question that so many of us are wondering, how long could this go on for?
I mean, that is an unanswerable question, but I can give you some of the parameters. So Donald Trump at the start of this suggested it could be very quick if the Iranians surrendered. A couple of days, he said. Obviously, that's not going to happen, and it probably was never going to happen. He's talking in terms of a few weeks, 5 weeks, that kind of thing. So that's the time frame that the Americans have put on this. But wars involve two sides. The Iranians, despite the military mismatch, do have agency. And what we could see, and we should say all of this is speculation, we do not know what's going to happen, but you could see a situation where the Americans try and declare victory. They say, we're done here. And the Iranians say, well, we're not. And they continue this, they continue, you know, the various different forms of sort of asymmetrical conflict that we've seen, or of warfare we've seen. And you can imagine a situation where they continue causing chaos, causing disruption. And this could go on, I mean, who knows how long it could go on. We could be feeling the ripples, the echoes of the last few weeks for years and years to come.
Joe, thank you very much. Joe Inwood.